couldn't find the person I was looking for. Pause this thing. If I kill this, will you be able to get it back?
Yeah.
I think that might help it force a cancel. I don't know.
That was just open the sessions you picked up.
Yeah, but it's like, do you want to save your changes? And I was like, ooh, I don't know that. Where?
Yeah, we should get food before this starts.
Yeah,
We have 8 minutes.
I know, but this has to take precedence for me at least. Oh my God, it's not syncing.
Okay, just open. I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We'd also say.
Sorry.
Oh, and my husband wants to know. Yeah, how far?
County, like Long Island. I have a bunch of clubs I can get in touch with. You have your phone on you? I'll give you my contact. I'll come over. So I got to go get food. Yeah, there's one here. Yeah, and it's that little guy's in there. You don't want those? Is that running from here? It has to.
A century ago, our founders made a promise to always take care of their own. That promise is still at the heart of everything we do, and why our members know we'll do what's right. Because at USAA, we take care of our own.
When he sits there and says, well, I have a water well right no, but when he makes a what do I have to do to buy it? Should I do this? I said, well, man, they got me to like, but this is really very big time. Suddenly they're saying certain sessions or something.
Last night, you spent 2 hours deciding what to wear to the party. This morning, it'll take you 2 minutes to list it on Depop and make your money back. Just grab your phone, snap a few photos, and we'll take care of the rest. The sheer dress and platform heels you'll never wear again, there's a birthday girl searching for them right now. Your one and done look is about to pay for your next night out, or at least the ride home. Your style can make you cash. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
support Top Job or
Okay. Sequence. Great. Christine's first. Christine. Put her name up. Okay. That's you.
And Christine Hoffer.
There's going to be a tip jar at the back. I expect it to be full. So, welcome everybody to NY-GEO's annual dinner. I appreciate everybody hanging around, sticking with us, having a couple cocktails, enjoying dinner. Thank you so much to our cocktail exhibit sponsor, Rototech. Where are my friends from Rototech at? They are not here. There they are. And our annual dinner sponsor, our friends from WaterFurnace, thank you so much. So as we get the program started, I just wanted to take 1 second, maybe 5, to talk about workforce development a little bit more. That the responsibility of the workforce development is all of us working together to advance ground source heat pumps. And again, you're going to get 2 letters from me tomorrow morning, and I just want you to sign them to support our initiatives to seek some money to advance ground source heat pumps. So thank you for that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the infamous Jack DiEnna, who is the board chair for the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association. So as he walks slowly to the stage, I want to talk a little bit about the relationship between IGSHPA and NY-GEO. So NY-GEO, our responsibility is to advance ground source heat pumps in New York State. IGSHPA's responsibility is to advance ground source heat pumps in the world. So Jeff and I work very closely together, along with Sally and the rest of the team at IGSHPA. I very much appreciate everything that they do to support what we're doing, and in turn what they're doing to support us. With the new initiatives, which Jeff is going to talk about with the training, I think it's great. I think it's amazing, and I look forward to doing a lot of training in New York State to advance ground source heat pumps. So Jack finally made it to the stage.
I did. Short legs. I'm glad you lowered that microphone. All I have to say is wow. Has this been a great conference so far? No, you can do better than that. I'd really like to thank Christine, John Chivacco, his staff, JR. I have a little bit of badge envy with Chivacco's badge, but we'll talk about that later. This industry is, and you've heard me say this before, this industry is family. What we see here, there's not a competitor in this room. We're all family. We may argue some, we may shout at one another, but we're all working toward the same thing. Our competitors are out there. So I started to figure out what can we say that would be different. And looking at the socks you bought, the energy under our feet, which is my saying, by the way, you don't have to pay me. I thought, what would make that happen? And I thought, well, your shoes, right? Because you made a mention to my shoes. And I started thinking, what kind of different shoes do we have? Well, we have the earth shoes like our resident hippie Bill Nowak wears. We have the clogs that John Chivacco wears for comfort. We also have the shoes, the Italian boots that JT wears that show up every single conference, and they're comfortable, am I right? And that's the showing up. That's what we do. And then we have these shoes I'm wearing, which I bought in 1998. Okay? 1998, and I figured out I've used them probably since then, maybe 20 times, but it works out to about $18.50 every time I wore them. They were $500, and they're still here, just like our technology. So the energy under our feet, the shoes you're wearing, and let's get this thing going. This is our time. Nobody can stop us now. Am I right, Jens? So I want to also say we have one other thing that's different. We have a fresh egg here. Am I right? There you go. And she's better looking than Jay and has more hair. But I really want to thank you. This has been terrific. And if you did not having a good time, too bad. I think I used to, where's JT? John Chivacco, he's trying to give me the hook. He's not here. Oh, you're in charge of that. Okay. Thanks very much, folks. And listen, if you're not having a good time, that's your fault. And if you're not learning anything, that's your fault also. Take care.
Thank you, Jack. So it's my pleasure now to introduce John Thomas, JT from WaterFurnace. WaterFurnace is our annual dinner sponsor and a very, very big, longtime supporter of NY-GEO. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm thankful for everything that you guys do to support the advancement of ground source heat pumps. I'm going to say that 4,000 times in New York State. So without further ado, JT.
Thank you.
Okay, this is kind of a unique conference because this morning Shabako scolded us before we got started with his ground rules. I felt like I was back in elementary school, but they were all valid points, so we want to give John credit for that. And then Jack just tried to blame us for something, and I don't even know what it was about. What were you blaming us for, Jack? You said it was our fault. I didn't. That's all I heard. That's all I heard. Well, listen, good evening, and thanks for everybody taking the time to share a meal with us. It's our privilege to not only support this conference in multiple ways, but to sponsor this dinner event. It's kind of the pinnacle of the two-day conference. There's going to be some awards. We've got some great speakers in addition to me. And so it's a great way to spend the evening. I just want to kind of reflect on the day a little bit and try to capture some highlights from people's comments earlier, which means I really didn't have any original thoughts of my own, so I thought I'd just repeat what the speakers said. Christine started off the morning talking about opportunity. And recognizing opportunity is important, and then she put a little twist on it and kind of introduced a new hyphenated word, opportunity. And she talked about the need to unify as an industry and a channel to take on the challenges that we have. And so I thought something that might go with that on how to seize the day of opportunity is to talk about the multi-dimensional resilience opportunity of geothermal heating and cooling and hot water. You heard in a lot of the presentations throughout the day the word resilience, and we heard it this morning. Donovan Gordon, he threw us behind schedule by 11 seconds because he made us pause and reflect for 11 seconds. He said it was 10, but then he ran over and it was 11 seconds on grid resiliency. And he had us pause on what other technology you got out there that can manage peak load for the electric utility industry, and in fact for building owners and consumers that are paying those bills. What other technology is out there that can perform what geothermal heating and cooling does? And during that 11 seconds, nobody yelled out any answers, I don't recall. So we're special that way, but providing resiliency and stability to the grid, and we're going to have the leader of NYISO come up and talk later that's going to talk about that. After Donovan was up, then Rory Christensen, or I should say Chairman Christensen, got up and he talked about how complex the energy system is. It is complex. Solutions to the problems look simple on the outside. And I'm not knowledgeable enough or experienced enough to understand all the inner workings, but I get exposed enough to know that it's complicated. Every action, every technology investment has consequences and opportunities and reactions and benefits. And different stakeholders throughout the whole energy system are impacted by that. He talked about that the energy system is like an orchestra. There's multiple fuel sources, there's multiple technologies, and they all have to work in harmony to provide the most affordable energy options for consumers and building owners today, which is, it's a critical issue today, affordability. And then he talked about transitions, and he kind of walked us through the history of, we've been burning wood for a while, and that migrated to coal, and then heating oil, and then natural gas, and then electrification. And I think he was implying that, getting heat out of the ground on your own property might be the next transition. And he said that those take time. And he said that there is no silver bullet on how to accelerate those transitions. They all had multiple incremental impacts that drove one thing, and that was adoption. He said it wasn't about technology. Technology's great. WaterFurnace, we love technology. But it's more about changing people's behavior than it is actually trying to incrementally improve the technology. And adoption is a tough business. And some of us are in that business to drive one of these transitions on how to drive the market for geothermal heating and cooling faster and in a more prevalent way. So those transitions take time. You're going to have incremental impacts to the barriers. We have to change the paradigm of how people think about heating buildings and making hot water and cooling their buildings most efficiently or their homes. And it's about adoption. We as an industry are going to have to be resilient. We're going to have to be diligent. We're going to have to be thorough about coming up with new ideas on how to break down those barriers of paradigm, prior practice, and other industries that, quite frankly, may not want to see us be successful because we're competing with them. That's the spirit of a free market system. Energy needs competition. We're up for that. We're fine with that. We've got a good proposition. So we have to be resilient on how we approach this transition of driving adoption of geothermal heating and cooling. And we have to think about affordability. Affordability itself is all about having energy options that are resilient to trends, inflationary trends, shortages of supply, global conflict. That's what we're going through right now. Consumers need stability. It's a different form of resiliency. Consumers can't afford to have 5 years in a row of 25% inflation on electric utility rates. That's a challenge. We help solve that challenge. Everybody in this room provides the lowest total cost heating and cooling system that a building owner and or a homeowner can invest in. Lowest total cost over the life of the system. That provides a different kind of resiliency in terms of cost management and affordability. And so if we try to sum it all up, we think about resiliency for the grid, we think about resiliency for affordability, we think about resiliency of the supply of energy. I mean, wouldn't it be more resilient if 10 to 20 to 50% of all buildings in the U.S. were a 4 COP means you're getting 75% of the energy on the property, out of the ground. That's what a 4 COP is. Heat of extraction, 75%, it's only 25% coming from the grid. That's resilient. What about state economies? Not every state economy is blessed with fossil fuel natural resources. The state economies that are buying fuel from other sources, like the state of New York and other states, it would make the state economy of New York more resilient, along with like 45 other states in the union. The amount of energy that comes on a predominant basis is limited by a very few handful of states. So when we think about what's the challenge, what's the unity and opportunity, we have to be resilient. We have to come up with those incremental impacts, and we have to sometimes create good trouble, and we have to make change for good. So thank you, and thanks for participating with the dinner tonight. Thank you. So sorry, I'm not completely done yet. I just wanted to hear the applause before I missed that opportunity. Now I'll introduce Mr. Bruce Cole. Bruce is Vice President of Residential for WaterFurnace, and Bruce is going to introduce the Top Job Award winners that if you sat in their breakout today, there was incremental opportunity showing resilience on these projects that was great to see. So Bruce, take it away.
Thank you, very good. Well, thank you, Christine, for giving me the opportunity to do the fun stuff up here with the team, and it's always a privilege and a pleasure.
You're doing good.
John's
Keep
gonna
talking. Pretend like I'm not here.
Almost there. There we go. There it is. Well, we're all right. We're all right. All caught up. So I get the privilege of representing the GeoStar brand for our business. It's a full product line, full product service for the distribution channel, and it's been serving the market for many years, and it's been a sponsor for this event for I think since it began. It's over a decade. It's been a lot of fun. It's as we heard from Jack and from John, this group. This industry is I think a bit unique in that we would come together in a friendly competition, sharing freely what individuals have done uniquely and very creatively with the geothermal product. You know, there was some very special activities here, and it's a privilege to be able to recognize these 4 individual businesses and the teams that worked on these projects. The 4 projects that we'll talk to are around commercial new construction. We'll talk about commercial retrofit, the thermal energy network and campus, and then residential. And I believe, maybe John or Jens, I believe this all started back long ago with just a residential focus. And as we've grown, that's all we have. Well, possibly, yeah. So as we've grown, and this team and the folks here in the room have expanded the reach, it's exciting to see this now becoming these 4 different unique spaces that geothermal serves. So without further ado, I would like to ask the folks, Justin and Kevin, if you would please join me up here on the Creekview Apartments in Canandaigua, New York. A very unique opportunity with hydronics implemented in a way that was pretty special. And so please come up and, Kevin, come on up and we'll get, drag him up here, somebody. And we'll get pictures afterwards, team. This is just the opportunity. So we'll grab pictures afterwards. Yep. Yep. Well, maybe we won't. Okay. Well done. Congratulations. Thanks, guys. Next, we'll talk about our commercial retrofit. It's NYCHA, East Chester Gardens, and Jackson Houses. So Mark Preston and Jens, would you please come up and join us? This, again, a very unique 17-story, 7-building, serving some thousands of people with a great opportunity. Well, he's gonna.
You have no idea what's going to
I
happen.
have no idea what's gonna happen here.
So why don't you go down there too? Because I've got a couple of things to say too.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm disruptive here, but I have to do this a little bit because he knows about it. So there are a couple more awards here going on because JT is torturing me for the last 15 years. That every time we sell a certain amount of heat pumps, I get an award. And he knows exactly it doesn't fit in the damn hand luggage. And then I have to it's torture. Okay. So, well, we can answer this. Yes, please. So, I figured, well, the project won this, but it's also part of your project because you build us heat pumps which didn't exist before, and you are part of it. So you should get part of those. Whoop. So those are actually the Engineering News Report Awards for the best projects in New York City. And we beat out pretty much all the engineering royalty here. And which is the first that a project won in 2 categories. And it's the first geothermal project ever for multifamilies as well as for sustainability. And what I didn't know is that this was forwarded to the national level, and an independent jury of 25 engineers decided that this is the best of the best nationwide for sustainability. So obviously the first project, but it's also, we beat out 200 of the leading engineers firm in the country, and you were a big part of it. So I was trying to get bigger ones so they don't fit in the damn hand luggage. These were the biggest ones I could get.
Yeah, they look nice size.
Yeah, so this is only for the best regional projects here for the East Coast, but the big ones are coming, as you know, on Thursday, so you'll be our guest of honor for that one. But also the ACEC, the American Council for Engineering Companies, we won the 2 top awards there too nationwide with this project. So congratulations to you, and congratulations to the best project manager I've ever worked with, and to the best supervisor I've ever worked with Adams, on those projects. It was an uphill battle, but boy, Remember when they said, this is all great what you're doing, but you can never do this in New York City? That's about 5 years ago. And this is incorrect. This is just one of the developments, was actually 2 developments at the same time, while the tenants were living there, and we put a geothermal system in there and 17 high rises at the same time. Those guys we have to thank for because they managed it all. We just put it in. But they are the heroes here. So,
Okay, that is New York Geo right there. Everything, it just kind of got to roll with it. It's gonna happen. Congratulations again. So the next one up is our Thermal Energy Network and Campuses Award. It goes to Hawthorne Valley School, Energy Catalyst, Mark Dismaris. Is he here? Here he comes. Come on up, guys. Again, a very unique, old school, old building, made a huge impact there in that with that program.
Oh, Jens did it, so I got to say something now. Real quick, just wanted to say this project is a really great demonstration of, so this is an old building, 200 years old. They had all existing baseboard and hot water, high temperature hot water baseboard equipment. And this is once again another proof that this is not a barrier to geothermal. We can do this, and we've proven it again and again. So with the right team, the right technology, it definitely can be done. That's my message today. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you. And where it all began with the residential program, Bonneville, Aztec Geothermal, Jeff Hoffer, would you please join us up here? There we go. And it's pictured, in his presentation, this has got to be one of the coolest homes I've ever seen. This thing was remarkable. And they made it work from a heating and cooling standpoint. Now, I thought, Christine, this is your home, right? This was... You could do that too. Okay, never be the first one. The gauntlet's laid down. I got to help her with geothermal equipment so she can do that. So that'll be great. So again, thank you very much. We have a new award that I have the privilege of introducing Brock Yordy. If you would please come up and recognize the Driller Award. Thank you, everyone.
Oh. So I was instructed this morning that I have to say, hi, I'm Brock Yordy with the Geothermal Drillers Association, and I have a question. This is pretty cool, everybody. Like, the civil construction side is exactly what gets us to this point in so many places. And the Geothermal Drillers Association started out of NY-GEO and IGSHPA and heat. And to tell a little bit of a quick story, and I know there's music and like a cane or something, so I'll be fast. 2024 April, I was staring at the sun at a NY-GEO event, and I had this idea after nobody gave me glasses that we should start a trade association that empowers the civil construction side. And I immediately ran to Jeff Hammond and said, hey, we've been thinking about this. I think we're gonna do it. And then I called an NGWA executive director and said, Terry, we're gonna start this association. And Now we're 2 years into it and 100+ members. And we opened membership at NY-GEO last year. And it's growing. And we have education. And it all comes out of the aspect of NY-GEO and the Empire State Water Well Association. They work so well together. They communicate. They're not using lobbyists to cancel each other out. They're doing good and lifting up this side of the industry, and we needed to have part of that. And now we have a driller award. Like, this is cool. So I have a couple quick slides. Obviously, we have our powerhouse, badass executive director, Stacy Canale, right here. She is also my second favorite executive director in this industry, with Christine being my star. And I would say Jeff would be a close third. But I mean, you got, anyway, Robert Meyer, co-founder. We've expanded our board. We now have Donovan Gordon and Joe Parsons part of our board, along with many great professionals. Kevin Austin is on the advisory board, leading workforce development and veterans and other pieces. We have so many great things going on. And so just really quick, some accomplishments from just in a year. We have developed field technician training. We worked with the Department of Labor and the Urban Institute through a reference from IGSHPA with Greg Kurtz that said we could build a framework for drillers from field technician instead of helper, because if I'd met Chelsea Yordy and said, hey, I'm a helper, I do not think I'd be married to the publisher, the driller, right? But I got to lie and say I was a driller. And so, anyway, like, we're working on promoting this. We have some great pieces coming out from Framingham, Mass. to Kentucky, to the great collaboration we get to have here at NY-GEO. And again, it all come from fun talks on Fridays, and just there's so much good that this organization has done, and I'm so appreciative, along with the same as what IGSHPA has done to lift us up. And Ryan being GeoExchange, really, when I looked up on the board and I was like, you fools are letting me speak with all of these great people tonight, like I was a little enamored. So anyway, we've been building curriculum. We've been working at 2- and 4-year degrees with Framingham State and some other pieces that we're bringing other people into. We have elementary education. Yes, I taught 4th graders, but really the reality is, if I can teach drillers about how to talk about sustainable energy and geothermal, like 4th graders, it was almost the same curricula. Like instead of a magic candy jar that every day we take it out, it's replaced the next day, it was just in a magic bourbon bottle. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I want to jump to the winner. And I'm so proud of this. We had some great submissions, and there was so many pieces. And one of the submissions was out of Colorado, and they had executed superbly for Dandelion on a project. And then it was so hard to make this decision. And so the winner of the inaugural Golden Tricone Award is La La Land. No, not funny. I'm a terrible comedian. It's actually Morris Shea, and I hope Philip is in this room right now. There they are. They're in the back. This was such a cool project in Indiana, and when we opened this up, we wanted to have championing the industry and projects that are happening. And not only as we talk about demystifying and the execution and drilling, we're discovering the unknown together. And so there is a big piece there, from the developer to the investment to the engineers to the drillers to the geothermal certified inspectors through IGSHPA to our accredited installers. How do we get here? And as things happened, not only did they have a phenomenal safety record, which we can't do this if we exploit our people. And we talk about this industry being, we said it was a young man's game, and we now say young individual's game. But if that's because they have an unbroken back and they have no commitment to be home at any point, we don't get there. And so Morris Shea lifting up these great employees, being a great construction drilling company, entering our industry, doing great stuff, bringing safety, bringing planning. But when the project had a hiccup because we're discovering the unknown together, they used their expertise in using cone penetrating drilling and whatnot to have a discussion about these are the identified hazards, and this is how we will fix it. And they did that. And that is a big piece to our test wells, to looking at 4 test holes to 500 or 1,800 holes. Like, what can change? Because Mother Nature's cooperation in our industry is optional. And so I want to bring these guys up. Thank you so much. We have a golden tricone. Ironically, when we were choosing a bit to do this, and Robert Meyer was the one that went out and got it painted and whatnot, we needed to get a bit that was too small for them to use, because these damn drillers will grab whatever good bit there is and put it down hole. So, here you go. Thank you so much. Keith, thank you so much.
We would have gladly taken a used one.
A used bit, retoothed, yeah? Is there anything you want to say? Let's go, Geo!
Let's go, Geo! Thank you, guys. Thanks, Ross.
Thank you, everybody.
So just so everybody knows, I'm going to backtrack because I forgot to push the buttons earlier. But it's now my distinct pleasure to introduce Jeff Hammond, the Executive Director for the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association. And as I said earlier, Jeff and I work pretty closely together, and I truly, truly appreciate him and Ryan, who you're going to hear from later. As I came into the industry, if you heard my first time I spoke, I said, I don't know what I don't know, because I don't know. So with that, Jeff was like, you don't need to know anything, you're doing great, we're gonna work magic together, and we do. And I really, really do appreciate the relationship that we have together, and it's my honor to welcome Jeff to the stage.
Thank you so much, Christine. It's always a pleasure being here. And you know, our very first memorandum of understanding since IGSHPA became an independent nonprofit was with NY-GEO. So we love what's happening here, and it's just great to support NY-GEO, but NY-GEO supports the rest of the industry as much as it supports New York. So it's really a good relationship for sure. I had a bit of a layover on the way here, as you can imagine, if you had flights into LaGuardia, unfortunately. But I ended up at JFK, and so I had time to read the entire ASHRAE journal cover to cover. So that was, sometimes those articles are really interesting. Sometimes they're technical, but they're maybe not so readable. Well, I noticed that since I was supposed to give a national perspective here, that there are some changes that this industry has experienced, and unless you're reading those articles really closely, you might not notice it. So ASHRAE has this technology awards, which honors outstanding achievements by members. And for 2026, this was the March edition of ASHRAE Journal, they had 8 first place technology award winners. I don't know if you saw that in the magazine or not, but out of those 8, 5 were GEO. So that's, I think, a pretty good benchmark of what our industry is doing. And, I'd love to see that. Out of the second place winners, 1 of the 3 were GEO, and 1 of the 5 honorable mention. So the bulk of the winners really were that first place. So that's really quite impressive, and sometimes we don't pat ourselves on the back enough. We're out there working so hard promoting that we don't realize all this is happening. Back to the national perspective, I just want to thank everybody again. 2025 was quite a change for IGSHPA. At the start of this year, 2026, we announced a brand new training program, and part of that was a 2.5-year project that we embarked on in July 2023. So we announced 22 new courses at the beginning of this year. I hope that helps with Christine's workforce development. We needed to really completely recalibrate the training. There was a lot of really good training over the years that IGSHPA put together, but it was a lot more broad-based. And so we took a study that was done by GeoExchange, at the time it was called Geothermal Heat Pump Consortium for the Department of Energy, outlining 14 different jobs in our industry. And even since 2013, those jobs really haven't changed. So the new training program was released in January, including those new job descriptions. As we grow as an industry, that's going to be a lot more important. We can't really be broad in nature. We've got to be respectful of everyone's time. So some of the online learning will help. It helps with pricing, with availability, access. So we're focusing now on the job. When we bring new people in, and we need to bring a lot more new people in, because we're all getting to be my age or older, so we need those new bodies. But now they'll be able to focus specifically on their job. We signed a contract with CSA Group so that we had a binational accreditation courses as well as binational certification. Also in 2025, we sunset our 2017 IGSHPA Design and Installation Standards and adopt the 2025 edition of the CSA ANSI IGSHPA C448 Design and Installation Standards. So that was a pretty big change as well. Thanks to New York and other state and provincial associations, we've gotten a lot more activity. We were up about 45% in business memberships in 2025, and we're looking forward to 2026 as well. So I know I'm between you and more drinks and other discussion, so I don't want to say too much more, but I certainly appreciate everybody's support and look forward to an exciting 2026. If you can make it, our conference is April 13th through the 15th in St. Charles, Missouri. Some of you who went to Champaign might have had a hard time getting there. I guarantee the St. Louis airport is much easier to fly into, so hopefully that will work for you a little bit better. And if we can be of any help, certainly, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on a great conference. Thank you, Christine.
Good evening. Thanks so much, Jeff. It's an honor and a privilege to work with Jeff Hammond. The work that IGSHPA has accomplished over the last couple of years is really foundational for the future of this industry. I know many of you in the room, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ryan Dougherty, the Executive Director of the Geothermal Exchange Organization, or GeoExchange for short. We are the national nonprofit trade association that is working on your behalf in Washington, D.C., and in state houses, and increasingly regulatory arenas around the country.
John told me to tell you to push the button.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Sorry about that, Il Duce. One demerit. John, Christine, NY-GEO staff, thanks again for having me. John, I sometimes bring him to Washington, and he actually does very well. He doesn't scold members of Congress. He can pivot very nicely, whether he's talking to his friend Paul Tonko or to people like Mark Wayne Mullen, who we've gone to see before, who's a big fan of geothermal and will likely be replaced by Congressman Kevin Hern, who's also a huge geo supporter. That's the thing about geothermal, regardless of who is in office, who is in power, who's in control of one chamber or both chambers of Congress, you can be pretty sure that they like geothermal. And we were banking on that last year when we spent the first half of the year trying to save the residential clean energy credit, 25D. John came with me numerous times to Washington, as did some others in the room. We fought like hell. We did well over 100 meetings, and I'm sorry to say that we were unsuccessful. We went to see New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, who represents a strange district surrounding Rochester, New York. She's on the Ways and Means, the tax writing committee in the House. And we said, Congresswoman, we're here because we need your help. We know you're a booster of geothermal. And, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That was the refrain. We knew that they were going to kill the residential credit for consumers. And we said, your beef with the solar industry, take it up with them. We're doing good things for American homeowners. She said, they didn't tell us you were in that section of the revenue code. I was like, Representative, you're on the tax writing committee. So our fate was kind of sealed. We took a great run at it. We did, however, protect the investment tax credit. And a lot of the great projects we've heard about today have an ITC component. I mean, we're talking about 30 to 50% of total project costs that can come back to you in the form of a credit or a direct payment. And that's not peanuts. And I think that the fact that we are going to have the ITC out until 2035 is a huge boon to this industry. We also have in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, if you're in Tenney's office, you call it that. If you're seeing Joe Morelli or Paul Tonko, they call it the Big Ugly Bill. So it depends what your persuasion is, but the OBBB, whatever you want to call it, had this key provision which we included, which unlocks leasing. It's one sentence. It's a 900-page bill, but if you search the thing for special rule for geothermal heat pumps, you will find language that we crafted and inserted. Why did we put that in there? Well, Bob Wyman told me to. You know, I was getting on those Let's Talk calls with, most of the time it was just me, Bill, and Bob, and we'd just kibitz for an hour. But what I learned from Bill and Bob during those sessions, I really took to heart. And so when the opportunity arose to put that special rule in the big bill, we took it, and now we see these new opportunities emerging. Robert Wyatt from Dandelion was talking earlier about their project in Maryland, 220 homes. It's going to leverage leasing. I think we are just at the beginning of this. And that's only one, the financials, the incentives are one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle, John Thomas talked about, and it's becoming a common refrain for us. I've been spending a lot more time with NARUC. You heard from Chair Christian earlier. He is one of 207 individuals in the United States that are utility commissioners. These are just over 200 people that decide what you pay for your gas or your electricity, phone service, water. They call the shots in a lot of ways, and they are under increasing political pressure to address peak demand issues, grid resiliency and reliability, and affordability. And we offer, as Donovan spoke about this morning, this very, very unique value proposition that their eyes are only now being open to. For so long, we were kind of just dismissed. GEO, yeah, I heard about it, costs too much. Doesn't work. That song, that refrain or retort is changing very rapidly. And I think one of the things we have to do is something Christine spoke about this morning. It's unity, it's commonality, it's common messaging. It is really underlining the grid benefits of geothermal because I believe if we are common in our cause, we can break through, we can win. Finally, I will note that elder statesman Jack DiEnna is turning 80 this weekend. He talked about the geothermal family. I love to see the family grow, but it begs the question, who is Jack in the family? I don't know if it's Archie Bunker or Ralph Cramden. It's one of them. But Jack. Okay. Jack, thanks for all of your efforts in support of this industry over the years. Look forward to many more years working with you. All right. Thanks very much.
I'm not Jack.
Are you okay?
Yes, totally.
Oh, goodness.
Last time I fell down, so just trying to explain. Very good. Thank you so much. Well, I skipped the introduction yesterday because I felt I'd get your attention here today, and I just want to introduce our keynote speaker here, Rich Dewey, from the New York State Independent System Operators, and why we believe he is extremely important to learn from him the way they think the independent system operators, but I also, because you're a very diverse crowd and not everybody is familiar with the benefits, I thought I'd give you a little intro to it. And some of you because there are a lot of new people in here as well, some of you might seen this slide. What do you see there? I took this from my hotel room because there's the air conditioning, and we are rejecting heat out of the building. We're trying to get rid of heat, and we're putting it into the atmosphere. 20 feet to the side, you see another plumb stack here. We're burning fossil fuels to make heat. Sometimes us humans are funny. So in one way, we're rejecting it. Why are we not putting this into here and call it a day? Because that's what we do. We're putting a huge amount of energy into the atmosphere. So this is Zero Place, one of our buildings in the Hudson Valley, and this is from today. And this is actually the ground over the last 12 months. And we start about 45 degrees here, 50 degrees right now, and then we're going up to 75. And then actually this is a year ago, then we're going up to 75. So we're injecting all that heat, which we normally take away and put into the atmosphere. We're putting this downstairs. And we're heating up the ground, and we're creating a thermal battery. And then the heating season comes, and we're pulling this heat out again, out of the ground, and heat the building with it. And this has to click. This is a thermal battery. And we're ending up pretty much where we started a year ago. Now, the point is that this thermal battery lasts through the whole heating season. Never has to be recharged. It does it automatically in the summertime. It's kind of ingenious. So we look at this building here, and this is about 50 apartments in the Hudson Valley. And this is one of the most efficient buildings I know, and this is a peak day. 90% of the entire energy use in the peak 15 minutes was thermal energy. 90% in the most efficient building. 10% was everything else. Appliances, elevators, light bulbs. This is the monster we're looking at if you heat a building and electrify it. However, if you now look very granular, and this was all done in the NYISO report, about 70% of that energy comes from on-site from the loop field, from the thermal battery. The grid only sees this. That is the value. So NYISO actually issued, I call it a little bit of a warning to say, hey, when we implementing the CLCPA, we're looking at an unprecedented amount of investments. We have to. And we need about 100 plus gigawatts, roughly 3 times as much as we can generate now in order to cover that peak, that 1 minute, that 1 hour. And we need to put in the entire infrastructure for it. And most importantly, this has to be to a certain degree dispatchable. We have to push a button and say, we need it now. We don't need it tomorrow. We don't need it this morning. We need it now. How can we going to do this? It's like me buying an excavator and only use it for 5 minutes a year. It would be a terrible investment. I would be the worst business guy. But they don't have a choice. They have to make sure that we have power, we have resiliency. So this is, now the interesting thing which caught my eye is the dispatchable argument. Is geothermal energy dispatchable? Yes or no? Any idea? Any idea? Well, this is Zero Place, and this is the daily profile and the peak day, peak heating day. And you can see here, the yellow is the amount of energy which came from the ground in 15 minutes increments. And up here, this is what it pulled from the grid, is the blue. So whenever it needed more energy, it automatically pulled more energy from the ground. That is the important. It is not dispatchable. It does it automatically. How ingenious is that? I don't know. I'm intrigued by that. I think this is cool. So here is what NYISO did. And it's very simple. They were just simply asking a question. Let's do a transit simulation, which is a very granular, second-by-second simulation of an air source heat pump. How does it work? They come in and say, hey, typical house in Albany, we measure this average COP of 2.3. This is for the season. But at the peak day, well, it wasn't that good. It was about 1.1. And this included supplement heat. And they started to really go into the demand. And actually, the peak moment or the peak hour was about 17, 18 kW the system was using to heat that house. Well, that's quite a bit. I mean, at that moment, that means that the house was using about 15 kW, a single house, just to heat itself. And then we're looking at it and saying, well, you're looking at the ground source measurements we had from the NYISO study, and this was monitored by NYISO. They monitored 29 systems in the Buffalo area, and it used about 4.2 kW of grid demand. That's 11 kW difference. So now the key question is, because we're talking about affordability, how much is 11 kW worth? Any idea? And I was going to ask that to Rich here, how much that is worth. Well, let's have a very quick look on how much it costs us to put that kind of capacity in. We have the Champlain Expressway here going to Canada. We're building a new transition line to Canada. Well, it's a 1 gigawatt capacity. It's 5,000 per kW because it costs us $6 billion to do though, right? Well, that's about $5,000 per kW. That's only the transmission line. And that's only for the contract in the summertime. We don't get this in the winter because the Canadians need themselves for heating. Now what? The new offshore project here in New York, $3 billion for 810 megawatts capacity. It's about $3,800 in terms of capacity. But the wind doesn't always blow. Now what? I would argue this is additive, transmission plus generation to a certain degree. Well, also the capital cost for this one, we're talking about an additional net present value of about $1,000 per kW just to finance it. Well, what about the utility cost to distribute this? Well, this is probably a little bit more now. Con Ed has anywhere between $4,500 to $6,000 of transition costs in the grid. This is not the transition line, it's just get it from the distributed among the city here. We had this case at the Pan Am building in Buffalo. They built 150 new apartments. They choose to put air source in because it was $200,000 cheaper. And it cost them $5 billion because National Grid didn't have enough power there, and they had to do a feeder line from the substation. So a $30 million project cost them $5 million more. What am I missing? Putting GEO in it would have missed it. So, here's my favorite. Well, and I don't suggest that GEO is great for the base load, like a nuclear plant, but we're also shaving the base load down. Keep that in mind. So this is Vogel. This is the last nuclear plant going online. It was $36.8 billion for 2 nuclear generator plant, and it's $15,000 per kW, just for the generation of the baseline. Does it sink in now? So we're having a single air source heat pump costing us 11 kW more than putting a GEO in. And they say, well, it's cheaper for the consumer, but it creates a mess in the grid. So keep one thing in mind, whatever we get from the ground, from the thermal battery there, which we put in by its own heat in the summertime, we don't have to get from the grid. And that is an enormous amount of energy. It's all confirmed now by multiple studies in multifamily buildings, in single-family buildings, in different areas of the state. It's all published. And with that due, it's my total honor to introduce Rich Dewey here to give us a little of his perspective, because he's the one who does the grid forecast, he regulates the market for the electricity, and he is essentially responsible for the bulk grid health.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jens. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, John. Thank you, Jack, for welcoming me here today. This is a fantastic opportunity for me. I've learned so much just in the last few hours that I've been here. I always viewed geothermal for the innovative potential that Jens just laid out, and that's exactly how we look at that. Some of you might not know who the New York Independent System Operator is. I'll just give you a very, very brief history. The story started in 1964. Big blackout in the Northeast. I used to ask how many people remember that, but now I just ask how many of your parents remember it, because I wasn't even born yet. I was born 9 months later. But then the investor-owned utilities in New York State got together and formed what's called the New York Power Pool, and it was sort of a collaborative venture to try to manage the power of the transfer of power between the utility footprints and into and out of New York State. For 30 years, the New York Power Pool did a fabulous job maintaining reliability of the system. In the late 90s, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission in Washington had an initiative to introduce competition into the utility commodity space that largely was a monopoly at that point. New York State Public Service Commission agreed, and in 1999, the New York Independent System Operator was born. What happened was the utilities, the investor-owned utilities, turned over operational control of all of their transmission assets, the bulk power system, 100 kilovolts and above, to the New York Independent System Operator to manage scheduled flows, manage thermal limits, the control of power going back and forth. At the same time, each of the utilities was ordered to sell all of their generating assets. The Public Service Commission decided that in the interest of really spurring the most competition, that the utilities shouldn't maintain a competitive advantage of owning both the generation and the obligation to serve the consumers, the retail customers, industrial and commercial. And then the New York Independent System Operator was then given the charge to administer wholesale markets. So we operate markets on a day-ahead basis for 1-hour schedules where we accept bids and offers from entities that want to buy and sell power. We run a very, very sophisticated optimization model to look at what is the lowest production cost schedule of power. We schedule the most inexpensive generation first, and then we work our way up until we meet the demand for that day. We do that on a day-ahead basis, and then every 5 minutes we determine a new price in real time based on what real-time conditions are. So it's a fairly sophisticated engine intended to come up with the most cost-effective schedule of power for the day. We personally believe that it's saved consumers hundreds of millions of dollars in New York in the 25 years that we've operated the market, and it's really spurred competition. It incentivizes generators to do their maintenance windows faster. It drives out the most inefficient, expensive generators from the system, and generally is just really good for consumers. We also do the planning, so the long-range planning for New York State, and it's really about looking at those 10-year and 20-year ahead windows. 10 years, we look ahead for reliability. If we identify an instance or a period of time when we can't prove that we can maintain a reliable system in that 10-year window, then we've got the obligation to seek solutions, either to come up with new generation, new transmission, new demand response, new technology that might help shave the peak so that we can ensure that we've got a reliable system. And then we also take great pride in our commitment to distribute information that is easy to understand to the public, to policymakers, to people within our industry. If you ever took a look at our website, we've got podcasts, we've got data sheets. We really try to break it down so individuals can try to really get an understanding based on how how deep or shallow their engineering expertise is. We can make it so that they can understand it and consume that. One of the most important things about our organization is our independence. Independence is our middle name. We have no commercial financial stake in any aspect of the utility industry. We are not a part of New York State. We are independent from New York State. We're a separate 501c3 organization. We operate under tariffs administered by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Rory Christian, who's a great partner who is here this morning, does not have jurisdictional or regulatory control over the New York ISO. We have that independence. We work as partners to try to achieve the best outcomes for New York. But in that way, we can develop confidence and really trust within New Yorkers that the decisions that we make and the reports that we do are in the best interest of New York and not driven by any financial means. One of the things that we do when we think about the state of the power system within New York State, some of the stats from our Outlook. I'm always proud when people actually read our Outlook. It's exciting. One of the things that really changed this industry in New York was the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, the CLCPA, that was passed in 2019. I was in the room when Governor Cuomo signed that bill. Really changed the landscape for the utility space within New York State and set mandatory statutory guidelines for how power is going to be generated, for how power is going to be consumed, and really changed the whole economy for New York State through that legislation. When that law was passed, we had a very, very diverse generation fleet already within New York. About 25% of our power comes from nuclear, about 25% comes from hydro, and then about 50% of the rest, just under 50% of the rest, comes from natural gas or oil as a backup fuel. And at that point in time, we had about 2% that came from renewables, whether it's solar or wind. We've made a lot of really good strides against our solar goals as a state, and we've actually exceeded some of the mandates that were laid out. The wind goals have lagged for a lot of reasons. Policy differences now with Washington that has kind of clipped the offshore wind progress, tax reductions or tax incentives that are now gone, and then some siting challenges. So, as we think about our progress and the journey down that road towards hitting those CLCPA goals, the timelines are going to be increasingly challenging, and some of those near-term timelines, quite honestly, I would admit that are not possible. So we're trying to think about how do we continue to make forward progress, continue to think about the affordability of the electric system within New York, but just be realistic and mindful about some of these challenges that the industry has faced. And that's been the story for about the last 5 or 6 years. Now, when you think about what changed in the last year that has caught our attention as grid operators is really the explosion of demand, or the potential explosion of demand. We hear a lot about data centers. Washington, D.C. Considers it a national imperative that we win the artificial intelligence race. I talked to folks down at FERC and even at the White House that view that as an existential economic threat to the United States. So there's really a tremendous push to build a whole lot more data centers, and that means electric demand. And the other part of the story in New York, which is really very good, is manufacturing. Manufacturing growth, large economic development projects in upstate, the Micron facility in Syracuse, Global Foundries outside Albany, the Chobani yogurt plant in Rome. I mean, these are giant electric loads that also represent tremendous jobs and tremendous tax base improvements. Now, when I lay in bed at night, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like, okay, the generation is not coming for a lot of reasons. The load is exploding for a lot of other reasons. Now, how do we keep the lights on? How do we keep the lights on in New York State in a way that's affordable? And that's really sort of the generational challenge that we're facing today that we weren't facing 2 years ago. 2 years ago, there was a lot of disappointment about how the offshore wind industry was seeing some sand thrown in its gears from the federal government. We saw some of the tax credits slow down some of the onshore wind development, and we started thinking about, okay, but we're still on a good track, we're still making progress, and now all of a sudden the load has exploded and the demand has exploded. That really challenges our ability to maintain a reliable system. Jen's hit the peak. It's all about the peak. We designed the system for the peak. This past summer, we had a peak of about 33,000 megawatts. Very, very hot day late in June. And we had some challenges keeping this aging generation fleet up and running. We have about 42,000 megawatts of capacity within New York State, and on that very hot day, 7,000 megawatts of generation did not show up. Failed mechanicals, issues with startup, lack of fuel. So these generators that we have in New York are really old, and we need some technology refresh in order to make sure that we can achieve that peak. And that's a big part of what we try to do from our planning standpoint, but also what we try to do to educate the industry and stakeholders. If we can, anything we can do to shave that peak just means that that's another power plant, that's another natural gas power plant we don't have to build, or that's another year that we can wait for that new renewable power that's under development to be ready to serve that load. And it's a big part of how we think about what's going to be necessary to do just to maintain the economy in New York, but also the health and safety of New Yorkers. When the lights go out, it's very catastrophic. You've seen that in Texas. We saw that in California a few summers ago. It's loss of life. It's seizing of the economy. It's lack of trust from citizens in our public officials. So everything that we do is making sure that we've got a system in place that we think within a reasonable assurance or with reasonable reliability is going to be ready to meet the peak for that season. The affordability issue is also weighs heavily on me. When we just had a very, very cold period of time, end of January, early February, and it was such a widespread event that we had shortages and scarcity of natural gas in the Midwest, all the way down to Texas, Louisiana, Southern Company down in Georgia, and Tennessee Valley Authority, and all the way through into the Northeast. So what that means is when you get a scarcity of gas, you're also got now very, very expensive fuel. Right? So the dominant fuel in the winter time period is natural gas, and then the price of natural gas spikes when we have a scarcity, and then that means the price of electricity then spikes as well. So when you think about some of those utility bills that folks are quite honestly opening like now, that's from that period of time that was back in January and February. And it's pretty dominant on the dependence on those fossil fuels. So as we start thinking about how we build markets to ameliorate some of those costs and some of that shock, number one, to the extent that we can not be as dependent on any one fuel source and start thinking about lots of different sources for where we get that electricity, we can spread our risk across different shortages that could affect some of those fuel types. The markets themselves work very, very efficiently, but at the end of the day, it's going to be driven by what that supply cost is to generate electricity. So we think about how we do that. In New York State, we got a pretty unique opportunity. By rule and by economic design, the generating plants in and around New York City all maintain oil reserves as a backup. Now, oil's not a great fuel from an environmental and emissions standpoint, but it's a great buffer for when you can't get natural gas to generate electricity, or that cost of gas is so expensive. The short period of time that you can burn oil maintains the reliability of the system and also ameliorates the cost spikes that you see in some of those natural gas. So a lot of the markets that we are designing are trying to come up with ways to consider and ride through some of those spikes so that we can keep the cost and the price of electricity down for folks. A lot of the things that we're doing, and quite honestly, why I'm excited and I'm interested in learning much, much more about geothermal is the market itself and the way that we set up our system for the day is so heavily dependent on forecasts. It's what we think is going to be the electric demand for the day. And increasingly when that forecast is not just driven by what the temperature is, it's also driven by is there going to be sun, it's driven by is there going to be wind on that particular day. getting that forecast right is so important. So a lot of what we have engineers, we have meteorologists on staff. We're constantly looking at some of these models to try to understand not only what is the weather going to look like, but what is the performance of some of these loads increasingly in the businesses and in the homes, and how do they perform and how do they react and respond under certain weather and meteorological conditions. If we can get that forecast as right as possible, that means we're not overscheduling facilities that's leading to excessive costs for consumers. That means we're not underscheduling facilities and then having to go out and buy emergency power in the middle of the day when it's ridiculously expensive. So we spend a lot of time trying to make sure we understand exactly how that forecast is going to be set up and what we should expect during the day. And to the extent we can get really good at that, then we can save consumer costs and we can preserve fuel. That reduces emissions, and that just improves the overall efficiency of the entire system. We're looking at artificial intelligence tools to help us do that. I mean, there's tremendous technology that's just every single day is improving, and looking at how we enhance some of those tools and how the system and the models can learn, and from day to day, like the computer learns from day to day what happens the day before, and that's pretty exciting, and that's pretty amazing. So that's where technology itself and the development of technology is just so crucial. One final thing about technology, when I think about the law and the legislation, it assumes that we're going to be at 70% renewables by 2030. That's what the statute says. We're not. We're already running out of time, and we're not going to hit that timeline. But we're still making good progress, and we're still running hard towards that. In 2040, the law stipulates that we have a carbon-free electric system. So no fossil fuels anywhere in the system. And by 2050, we have a carbon-neutral economy. So when you start thinking about some of those things, two things come to mind. Is the technology doesn't exist today to have a carbon-free electric system in 2040. It just doesn't. Wind, solar, and storage can get you most of the way there, but you still need that dispatchable resource that doesn't emit pollutants or carbon. And at scale, and by scale I mean can generate electricity, does not exist today. So we continue to need to work with the NYSERDAs of the world, the national labs, a lot of the research facilities to continue to explore whether it's renewable natural gas, biofuels, whether it's burning hydrogen as a replacement fuel for gas, carbon capture and sequestration. These are things that have demonstrated to be possible but just can't happen at scale. But to hit those targets for that zero carbon-free electric system, we're going to need innovation, and I'm always excited about innovation. I've never ceased to be amazed at the prospect of innovation. The other thing is this carbon-neutral economy means all these homes that are heated by fossil fuels and all these vehicles that are combustion engines need to be electrified. Or some other non-emitting solution, and that's a tremendous load, and that's tremendous demand that's going to have to be met by something. So we're going to need efficient solutions. Geothermal is a wonderful opportunity for that, and I'm really excited for the future of that. So that's why I'm excited about it. That's why I was pleased to get invited here, and that's why I've been delighted to meet with each of you. And I want to thank you for the opportunity and for a wonderful night. Thank you.
He's willing to take some questions, but not a lot. It's late. Everybody wants to be somewhere else, maybe. Maybe a couple of questions, just because that's usually the first thing that he didn't say will be like the first couple of questions. And then he'll go, oh, yeah. All right. Who's up?
Wait for the mic.
Pop back up. You again.
Thank you. Thanks, Rich, first of all, for a great presentation. Ron Kamen, Earth Kind Energy Consulting, and the BCW of Westchester's Clean Energy Action Coalition. And Rich, first, thank you for the great report tying the increase in electric prices directly to natural gas. The question for you, in addition to that very consistent wave of increases, is how much of the electric cost increases are also tied to the investments in gas infrastructure as well as electric infrastructure?
Well, 40% of the bill is supply. So when you start thinking about your utility bill, 40% of it is supply, 60% of it is the wires, charges, and everything that comes for your utility. So it's a portion of that 40%. The actual increases on the distribution side is kind of like wires, transmission upgrades, the delivery systems, if you will. So that's sort of the breakdown of your bill. It's 40% supply that comes from the markets that we administer. Your utility just passes that through to you. They get no profit from that. And then the rest of the bill is the work that they need to do to build the delivery system. Gas, there's been, well, quite honestly, there's been very little investment in the gas system in quite some time. That's why we have so much scarcity. That's why we have limited supply. There's been some pipeline projects that are proposed that haven't made it very far, but very limited, I would say.
Hi, thanks so much for your presentation. I'm wondering, given the presentation that Jens gave and the degree to which we're looking at the difference in peak demand between air source systems and ground source systems, if NYISO would consider in your outlook or one of your other publications projecting out what the peak demand would look like if, for example, electrification was 80% GEO and 20% air source, or the opposite, 80% air source, 20% GEO.
Great question, great question. We do the outlook every 2 years. Right now, like this month, we're working on the different scenarios that's going to be for the next view. Those are some of the considerations that we're actually looking at, some of those scenarios. And then we're able to then project like what the demand might look like, but also what the total system production cost might look like. So all these scenarios are all, none of them are accurate. They are all, they'll all be wrong, but it will give us some different benchmarks so we can kind of see, the levers of different investments that we can think about.
Let me ask you a public question. How can we help? What can we do for you? Or what would you advise us to do as an organization who is so dynamically growing to have a bigger impact and the realization what this technology can deliver?
Well, selfishly, I could say, our market rules are developed under a framework of a stakeholder process where we have meetings in our offices and online. You can participate remotely every single day of the week, quite honestly. And it's the process we go through to develop new market rules that can incentivize investment and then drive reliable outcomes. And it really is a stakeholder process. I mean, we have no authority at the New York ISO by ourselves to promulgate any rules. We actually can't even petition the FERC all by ourselves for new market rules or changes to those tariffs. It's a complete stakeholder engagement operation, and participation in some of those meetings is very, very low cost, lightweight, but informing the broader discussion, which is heavily dominated by supply interests and some of the utility interests, to have a voice in that process. And then as we're developing market rules, or thinking about things like the outlook and some of the scenarios that we put into the outlook, that could be really valuable, sort of accentuating and advocating for the position that you're in. And I've seen some of these technology participants come into that room and just educate everybody that's in that room. And it can really be effective in helping us come up with market rules that are good for consumers and reliability.
So, Rich, no trip to NY-GEO is complete without a question from Bob Wyman. And Bob Wyman has promised to have it be just a one-part question, like it's a question. Is that good? Can we make that commitment? He's having trouble, a commitment issue.
Okay. With your day-ahead forecasts and things, fabulous information comes out, but your focus is primarily on the generators
and the grid operators. The reality is that a lot of the predictions you make day ahead, particularly like marginal emissions predictions, et cetera, okay, seems to me that that's data that should be getting consumed by and used by the control programs for the heating and cooling systems around the state. To a certain extent that happens, but there's an intermediary between us and your data, which is typically the utilities. For instance, like Con Ed will have a CSRP or DLRP process where they will evaluate what we need to do, and they'll send out a signal saying, you know, adjust your systems.
Yeah.
But they're an intermediary between us and you. It seems to me that we'd be much better served if we had a more direct relationship with NYISO, and the control programs for our systems could be responding in real time to your changing day-ahead forecasts, not only on capacity, but also marginal emissions.
Yeah.
Okay, which at the moment, for instance, the CSRP and the DLRP programs at Con Ed just totally ignore emissions. They only care about capacity. So is there any way, I understand the structural differences, you're not government, you know, you're not the utility, there's all kinds of complexities there. But is there any way you can see of how essentially a heat pump and you could have a much closer and tighter relationship in the future? Because I think it's two entities that really do need to get together. Sorry if that's only one theme. It was a lot of words, but it's only one theme.
No, it's a great point. Actually, we've heard this from entities that are trying to really a myriad of objectives, whether it's understanding how they can tune their systems to comply with Local Law 97 better, whether it's they can make more informed decisions about participation in our distributed energy resource program, which is kind of like, you know, still in its infancy. So we have taken steps. Even just last year, we put out some more granular data exactly on those marginal emission rates. The hurdle that we haven't figured out how to clear yet is there's not a lot of participants in some of those smaller systems yet, and if we get too granular, we expose commercially sensitive information by some of the entities whose data that we're aggregating. So we've been doing it on a zonal basis. We're trying to do it on a subzonal basis. When the participation and the number of entities that we have that are participating in those systems, we want to get to a nodal basis so folks can figure out like where they sit exactly on the grid, what they're seeing from a marginal emission rate. That's been the hurdle that we've had, is just low participation in our systems, our programs, because that's at the bulk system level, and providing that data in a way that's actionable and valuable for single entities without exposing other entities whose commercial interests might be compromised by sharing that data. So definitely something we're working towards. It's just we're not there yet. But I understand exactly why that would be valuable, and that's in our that's in our longer range market vision plan. Thank you. Thanks. Christine, thank you so much.
So before he steps off stage, like we talked about colleges and other stuff, so
her son is really smart.
He is actually I have two of them. They're both very smart.
Because he went to Clarkson.
Clarkson, right. So he didn't mention Clarkson. Yeah. So New York State has more higher learning institutions in a state than any other state in the United States. And most of them are SUNY CUNY, but there's also some private schools. So both my boys wanted to go to a purely engineering school, and my youngest son chose Clarkson. And he has a great engineering degree, and he's doing great things. But he went there because he also plays lacrosse, which we talked about last year. And so, anyway.
And where's your other son go? Where's your other son go?
Worcester Polytech.
Worcester, oh, that's a great school too. That's a great school too. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, I really want to say thank you to everybody that hung out through this. Like, we're giving great information and sharing lots of really, really, really great stuff. But the most important thing is the people in the room. The people in the room are really, really important. The most important person in the room right now is Jack DiEnna. So in case you didn't know, Jack DiEnna's birthday is coming up. So Jack DiEnna, happy effing birthday. So we have some treats here, and if you want to stand up and sing happy birthday, I think that'd be really fantastic. Are you ready? And then I got these treats special for you, Jack. You might have to share them a little bit. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Take this to him. Happy birthday, dear Jack.
Happy birthday to you. Ah, good.
So it's Jack's 29th birthday. Drinks are on him. Just kidding. So our top job award winners, I had a little bit of echo failure throughout the day, and I think 2 of them left. So we're going to switch up the photograph. It's going to be tomorrow morning. I will send everybody a message. Right outside here, there is a step and repeat for NY-GEO. We're going to take the photograph with your award. Matt, I'm sorry I took yours from you. We're going to take it. Are you going to be here tomorrow morning? Okay, so tomorrow morning, right outside of the office, we're going to take a picture of the top job award winners. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you to our sponsors and everybody that supports NY-GEO. You're released.